The Lord is going to put us back in our land, man, through Yahweh Shai. We're going to be sovereign. We're going to rule. We're going to win. We're going to have everything in abundance, man.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
The wisdom is going to lead to the kingdom, which ultimately the kingdom is the government of Israel, the tabernacle of David. When you look up this word, keys, I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom. When you go to that word keys, that keys to the kingdom is the key of David, the tabernacle of David, the government, authority. But when you go to the word for keys, it says what? Kleis. It says, since the keeper of the keys has the power to open and shut, meaning the Lord is going to give us dominion, like he's going to give us judgment. And it says metaphorically in the New Testament to denote power and authority of various kinds. This wisdom is going to lead to us receiving the kingdom, which is authority above, the authority that the Most High Yahweh gave Yahweh Shai. We're going to have that authority, 144, Lord willing, that number. But it's authority of various kinds, authority over the resources, authority over the heathen, authority over, you can implement judgment. You're going to be able to create and manipulate the elements to create things. You're going to be a God on earth. Basically, that's the power that 144 is going to have. Not even all Israel are going to be on the level of the 144. But yeah, that key, that was given to Peter, was the head of the church. We fall into that order. That's David. The tabernacle of David will receive all various kinds of power, and the gates of hell will not prevail, against us. But yeah, the key of David, see Revelation 1:18, I am him that liveth and was dead. He conquered death. He's the firstborn of the dead. First one of the sons of God. He is the Son of God. He conquered death and went back to the right-hand side. Now we're seeking to conquer death and get our glory back. It says, I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive evermore. Amen. I have the keys of hell and death, meaning judgment. Judgment is given into the hands of Yahweh Shai, and we're going to have that power. It said we're going to be able to create plagues on the earth. Like we're going to be a government. Like the government is the government of the whole earth. So the keys that were given up to Peter, which is the key of David, is authority. Power over the nations, everything, bro. So, the scriptures say here, Zechariah 12 says, in that day Yahweh shall defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. We're going to be New Jerusalem. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So we're going to take the same form as Yahweh Shai. We're going to be joint heirs with him in rulership. That's why he told, the disciples, you're going to sit at my table, So all Israel is going to be on point. All men will be priests, all our women, but the house of David is going to be as God, meaning they're going to have a certain authority on a whole nother level under Yahweh Shai, who is the angel of the Lord that's going to be before us. So, yeah, bro. We got a lot coming. The tabernacle of God is with men. When you read that in Revelation 21:3, and I heard the voice out of heaven saying, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people. God himself shall be with them and be their God. I mean, the laws is going to be in us. And also, 1 John 3 says what? 1 John 3:2, beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not appear what we shall be, But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in himself purified himself even as he is pure. So we got a lot coming, bro. You know, we gonna be, you know, like next level, you know, this government that's coming, kingdom of heaven, boy. Woo! So, I mean, I don't mind being a part of the large multitude because you make it, but man, to be a part of that governing body, bro, that 144, you got something special coming, bro. Judgment, like you're gonna literally, the authority Yahweh Shai has, you're gonna have that. He's gonna share that authority with you.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well. All right. Being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing, salutation. Okay. To the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and his sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful, like the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh by Shema Shai. All right. And what I want to get into this morning, you know, dealing with the morning news and prophecy. All right. Ease in can't be avoided. Okay. And what we're seeing with Esau, Edom, all right, is prophecy is bagging this man into a corner. Okay. Because he's trying his best, okay, not to fall into this trap that the Heavenly Father has laid for this nigga, man. Okay? Well, he's moving out of options. Okay? Esau's trying to avoid the inevitable. Okay? And that's this third world war, which is going to end this man's empire. Okay? And what we seeing under Trump, you know, this devil doing a lot of things that have nothing to do with nothing. Okay? To avoid what he really got to do. Okay, and that's he has to get into that direct conflict with Iran. You see, Iran is their door of no return for these devils. Okay, and you see this nigga getting cold feet, man. Okay, because when the Lord allows, you know, this conflict to really, you know, when the Lord allows these small hats in Iran to finally lock up, okay, in all-out war, and America gets involved, that's it. Okay, this is the war that's going to end everything, man. And we know that other prophecies have to take place. You know, Jacob's trouble, the MOTB being mandated. Okay, so what we're seeing is just the Lord moving these pieces, but he's cutting off the ring for Esau to what Esau got to do, what got to be done. Okay, he can't kick the can down the road, all right, for too much longer. You know, he's running out of road. Okay, so the devil's going to have to go with his move, and the Lord is putting this man, okay, under the pressure, man. Okay, the Lord is putting this man behind the 8-ball, man. He's under the gun. Okay, so to speak. Now let's get some precepts, and then we'll get into, you know, I have this video and also I have this article I want to go into. So let's go here to the book of Psalm. All right, and this is Psalm chapter 7 and verse 12, and this is in the AMP. Okay, so when you get into the book of Psalm chapter 7 verse 12, it says, if a man does not repent, all right, which Esau has no repentance in him. Okay, so by default, Esau he's disqualified to be able to repent. Okay, it says if a man does not repent, the Most High will sharpen his sword, and this sword is the missiles, man. He has strung and bent his mighty bow and made it ready. Okay, so Esau can't avoid the inevitable, and that's a nuclear war. Okay, that's prophesied in the scriptures, and it's the Lord. This is the Lord's weaponry. The Lord has allowed these nations to tap into, okay, and to stockpile a nuclear arsenal for His prophecy to be fulfilled, for the will of the Lord to be fulfilled, which is the judgment of the whore. Okay, and there's no getting around it. You see? So it said, verse 13 said, He has also prepared other deadly weapons for himself. He makes his arrows fiery shaft aimed at the unrepentant, man. Okay? So the Lord already has, this weaponry on deck. Okay? When this war breaks out, those missiles are already locked and loaded, ready to go. Okay? And they're just making more missiles and making them ready every day that goes by. So every day Esau drags his feet, because when it comes to setting up this digital system, he's all for it. He hitting the ground running. Okay? When it comes to this DPI, the digital public infrastructure, he's all for it, man. He's throwing up these data centers. Okay? He's rolling out these surveillance cameras. Okay? He's launching this, digital ID, options for, these cell phones, these cell phone companies, man. Samsung and Apple. Okay? Using facial recognition at airports when it comes to this him setting up his new world order. He's very diligent and fervent. Okay? But we seeing when it comes to this war, this nigga dragging his feet. Okay? America, you're gonna have to go get down over there, man. That's just what it is. Okay? When it comes to this war over there with Russia, China, and Iran, okay, this nigga is dragging his feet, but nah, you gotta do what you gotta do. The Lord got that war prepared, and it's gonna happen in this appointed time. Because we see, things begin to get intense, and then, like we talk about this devil, he'll go on their off ramp, but the Lord, like I said, the Lord gonna make it to where ain't no off ramp. Okay, you're gonna have to ride it out, man. I know you brothers, sometimes you might be on the interstate and you mess around, miss your exit, and there won't be another exit for 20 miles, man. You gotta ride it out. Ain't nowhere to turn around on the interstate. You gotta ride it out. And the Lord's gonna do that to these devils, man, to where he's gonna cut off that exit, and the devil just gonna have to ride it out. All right, he gonna next exit Tyron. Okay, the nigga gonna miss that exit. The Lord gonna make that nigga miss that exit. Okay, and the next exit gonna be in Tehran. Okay, well, this thing is gonna go to another phase. You see, these little skirmishes and conflicts gonna go to another phase. Okay, because it's so much, the stakes are high dealing with this conflict between the small hats America and Iran. The stakes are very high. Okay, and all these major power, the strongest militaries on the earth, all have a stake. Okay, in this war, in this conflict, man. Okay, and the Lord's going to drag America into this war and drag America into this trap. Okay, so let's read on, and it says, Psalm 7:14 said, "Behold, the wicked and irrelevant man, all right, irreverent, all right, the wicked and irreverent man is pregnant with sin, and he conceives mischiefs and gives birth to lies, man." Okay, so Esau, Edom, this rulership, okay, produces nothing but mischiefs and lies. Okay, and this devil, wants to set up a global system, a digital system that's pure rebellion to Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay, this is what he wants to birth into the earth. Okay, that science is God, technology is God. You know, they transcended the God of the Bible through technology, man. This is the, um, the new world order he wants to birth in the earth, man. Okay, but as he get closer to trying to birth their new world order, all right, well, there's a birth of a war too, World War III, which is his end. It says he has dug a pit and hollowed it out. Yeah, Esau, everything that he's done from the Renaissance, all right, from when these devils first started to come to the Americas and conquer and take down, the tribes. Okay, as they transported, the tribes from, the Southern Kingdom from, you know, um, Africa. Okay, what they call the slave coast over here to the Americas. I say when they came and conquered, the northern tribes that was here in the Americas to this man's, industrial boom, you know, all these different things, his technological boom, everything that the devil has done has brought him to this point. He was always from the day one of the Renaissance when these devils began to conquer the earth again. Okay, the Lord had this man digging his own pit. Okay, and now he has set a trap for himself in the earth. You see, and now the devil is trying to figure his way out this trap, and he can't. You see, and it says he has fallen into the very pit which he made as a trap, man. Okay, so this wicked, evil empire, has caused so much chaos and confusion, but then this nigga has created so much weaponry, okay, and distributed so much weaponry throughout the earth that he has created a trap for himself, man. Because nations have learned how to fight wars, these modern warfare from this nigga. Nations started to tap into, okay, nuclear weaponry because he tapped into nuclear weaponry, man. Okay, began with atomic warfare, now it's nuclear. Okay, so this modern warfare, all right, there's this third world war is going to be fought with. Well, this devil, he the one that set the standard for that. Okay, now all these nations, like scripture say, let the weak say I'm strong. Now all these nations, okay, have made themselves strong militarily because the will of the Lord. The Lord has built up these other nations. Okay, so now it's an earth full of nations that's militarily strong. Okay, which is a trap for the devil, man. All right, because now as he tries to throw his weight around, well, guess what? There's resistance. You see, and there's going to be major conflict. So this devil set up a trap for his damn self, man. Verse 16 said his mischief will return on his own head, and his violence will come down on the top of his head like loose dirt, man. So all this devil did, okay, was create an environment to where he's going to be he's going to be judged. This man created the atmosphere for World War III. Okay, for America to become a lake of fire. Esau created this atmosphere, man. The Lord had this man digging his own pit the whole time. Okay, and it was the Lord behind it, orchestrating all this, man. Okay, the Lord was playing on the mind on the elites, certain leaders. The Lord is playing on the mind of all these key people to fulfill his will in the earth. Okay, and as believers, verse 17 says, I will give thanks to the Lord according to his righteousness and justice, and I will sing praise to the name of the Lord the Most High. All right, how about Shema Shah, the Most High, man? So we're in the time of rejoicing as we're seeing the will of the Lord playing out real time. It's happening exactly like the scripture said it would happen, man. Okay, and we know this devil pride plays a major part in how reckless he's been. Okay, and he's all over the place, man. Okay, he's stretched thin. So Let's go here to Jeremiah 49 and 16. I'm gonna get it in the NLT. All right, then I'm gonna segue to this article, dealing with the EU. So let's read this real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49 and 16 in the NLT. And it says, "You have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride." Okay, because the devil, the Lord allowed this man to be the hammer of the earth, to be this bully. Okay, to where he was just able to go wherever he pleased throughout the earth and establish his dominion and influence. He was able to topple governments without firing a single shot. Okay, he was able to make governments implode on themselves, to destroy them, inwardly, do coups. Okay, and then he was just able to bomb certain places back to the Stone Age, man, as they say. Okay, turn certain cities into parking lots. Okay, with his air superiority, man. So this devil has been deceived, okay, by his track record in the earth. Okay, and he's become extremely proud and reckless, man. Okay, and he doesn't see what he's realizing now. It ain't as sweet as it used to be. Okay, and this is why you see him being a little hesitant with certain moves. Okay, but the Lord gonna put the spirit on him. All right, because the Lord has this devil making nothing but miscalculations. Okay, because wisdom is fleeing from Teman, which is the brains of Esau's empire. Okay, so now we're seeing wisdom leaving this man, and he's beginning to make a lot of miscalculation, man, and it's based off his prior track record. All right, to be able to bully these nations, man. Okay, and the Lord has the spirit on these nations to come up against this devil, man. Okay, it says you live in a rock fortress and control the mountain heights. Okay, because for the longest, this devil had just been able, to be on the offensive. Because why? He had the air superiority plays a major part. Okay, in the terror that he, invokes in these nations, man, especially these weaker nations that had no answer for the devil. Okay, but the devil, he has this condescending spirit on these other nations, man, because he's been able to, just send, okay, these strike throughout the earth, man, and he's able to do this everywhere. The aircraft carriers just been able to show up everywhere and, have their air superiority throughout the earth, man. But see, now these nations have modified their militaries to counter that. Okay, then the devil has, satellites in space. He has weaponry in space. Okay, he's able to have all this intelligence, through those satellites, like an eagle would be able to see, have that vision from a high. The eagle had a high vantage point. Then he had that great sight. Okay, so the devil has these satellites, and he's able to have all this intel, to where he has the ups, okay, on everyone, man. You see? But now all this beginning to work against him because these other nations can hack into those satellites. You see? And see what he see. Okay? Beginning with Russia, which Russia is an Edomite government, okay, but it's the America, the Lord is using Russia to counter, okay, the West, this beast system. Okay, and through Russia, China becoming these superpowers, now there's an assembly of nations that's raised up to go to war with the West, man. Okay, said, but even if you make your nest among the peaks with the eagles, I will bring you crashing down, says the Lord. And this is what we at now. The Lord is going to bring this man crashing down. So though he has built his military even into the atmosphere, okay, the devil got certain fighter jets that can, them B-2 bombers, man, they can fly in the atmosphere, man. For a period of time. They can be up there. Okay. So though this devil, has reached, his military might to the atmosphere, the Lord's going to bring this devil down. Okay. And this is what we at now. The Lord is getting ready to bring this nigga down to nothing, man. Okay. And this third world's war, all right, is this man's end, because also this third world's war ushers in Yahushua. And you best believe these devils hear the prophets, man. And when they make certain moves, they see what the prophets is saying is directly on point. Okay, so this devil, you can see he dragging his feet a little bit when it comes to certain things, man, because hey, he got to deal with prophecy, man, and prophecy ain't in his favor. Okay, well, they had that Operation Looking Glass, when they were looking to, this device, okay, that went into the future, and when they tried to put different inputs in to get a different outcome, but the outcome was the same, and they just left, they just abandoned their Project Looking Glass. Brothers can look into that. Okay. But no matter what the devil does, the outcome is going to be the same. So all this, Greenland and Cuba, nigga, go where you supposed to go, man. You know where you supposed to be at. Okay? I don't hear about no goddamn Cuba, Nicaragua, nigga. Go to where you supposed to go to, man. Okay? Take your ass to Tehran. Stop playing. You see? Then he dragging his feet. Okay? So let's I thought I had, okay, here we go. Yep. So you got this dealing with Greenland. Okay. Let's read a little bit of this. Okay. It said President Donald Trump said Saturday that he would impose a new 10% tariff on Denmark and 7 other European countries. A deal is reached for the complete and total purpose of Greenland. So he's saying that he's going to put 10% tariffs on Denmark and 7 other European countries until a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. Okay. And Trump is still, trying to show as if he's just this great, like he's this great deal maker. He's this conquering, warrior type leader, man. This man is acting, man. This is all for optics. And we're going to get into the word optics, man. Okay, Trump is an actor that's meant to keep people intrigued to the American song and dance, the idea of American empire. Okay, Trump is an actor to keep you intrigued. Okay, this is all optics. Okay, this is nothing great that this man is doing. And see, people will read this and be like, man, that is smart though. That nigga is smart. I don't like him, but that nigga, he be making some deals. Okay, this has nothing to do with nothing. Okay, if America take over Greenland, now what? You still got to go over there and deal with Iran, Russia, and China, man. Taking Greenland ain't gonna help you at all. Okay? Even though Greenland is rich in resources, those resources just don't jump in your pocket because you signed a piece of paper that says America owns Greenland. Okay? The resources that's being used for this war, all right, that's going to be used for this third world's war is the resources that's already up and running, okay, that's being manufactured right now. Russia can produce more tanks than the whole EU. Okay? What the EU nations produce, and America, what they produce, okay, in a year, Russia can do in a couple months. Okay, getting Greenland ain't gonna stop that. You see, Russia, China, and Iran have projectiles that America don't got yet. They got hypersonic projectiles that America they haven't mastered yet, man. Okay, and of course, in war, all nations have things that the other nations have not seen. Okay, but according to the scriptures, this assembly of nations, it said their arrow is going to be of a mighty expert, man, showing you that the Lord is dealing with them on another level to take Babylon down. So getting Greenland ain't going to be nothing great. It's just going to be for optics to make it seem like, America just this great conquering power still. Okay. It says the other countries affected will be Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland. And said this is also for prophecy's sake as well. If a brother want to get that, I see the brother got Obadiah 1-4, but I think verse 7, if I'm not mistaken, they that of thy confederacy. Okay, and the brother can go ahead post that in Revelation 17 and 16. Okay. Yeah. Revelation 17 and 16. Okay. Because see, the elites, like I said, the elites have their part in, they have their hand in the dealings with all these nations, from America to China and, a lot of, the so-called, beef and tension that we see, is political theater. Okay. But then the Lord is going to cause real friction. He's causing real friction between these nations for his purpose. And if a brother can post, 17 as well, and that's going to prove that point. Revelation 17 and 17 as well. Okay. But going back here, okay, he says the other countries affected would be Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland. These are all the 10 horn. Okay, these are all part of the 10 horns. Okay, Trump said the duties would increase to 25% if the deal is not reached by June 1st. So he's putting them on the time. You see, and Trump, he handled, which the EU can do nothing against America. If America want to go take Greenland, the EU can do nothing about it. Absolutely nothing. Okay, the EU military might, all right, is garbage. Okay, Russia would run through the EU by themselves. Iran is stronger than a lot of those EU nations, military. Okay, and the West just has, that strong economy. All right, but it says China. It said, wait. So let me go down. Let me jump down. I'm gonna play this real quick. Not spend a lot of time on it, but let's play this real quick because, people aren't see. There was a time when America, was the nation to be like. It would have been a privilege for Greenland to be a part of America. But as these nations from the outside looking in at America, man, these nations are like, hell no. Okay, you have Americans leaving America. America's complaining, okay, about America. So you have, Greenland like, hell no. We don't want to be a part of America, man. Let's play this real quick.
Donald Trump, go home. And we don't need Donald Trump here in Greenland. This is my country, not USA.
I don't want to be American. Why should we? For what? For what good? No good.
I don't want to be American, no matter what. I want to be Greenlandic, no matter what.
Greenland is for the Greenlanders, and when they decide to become independent, that's their business. And no other country should come here and take over.
Yeah, man. So, and it just, everyone hating the whore. You know, this plays into their prophecy of everyone hating the whore. Okay, so let's read this real quick. And I said, there's nothing that Greenland will be able to do, or the EU, okay, to stop America from taking Greenland if that's what they wanted to do. Okay, let me see. What the ripple effect is, because these EU nations, they can't directly, they can't engage America in any type of conflict. Okay, they will be smoked. You see, quickly. You see, but what the EU can do is what? Switch sides. Okay, to Russia, because Russia is like the banner. Okay, the Lord got Russia set up. Okay, as a chief prince, as it says. You see, Russia is set up as a strong man to these other nations. Okay, a bully for the bully. Okay, and Yahweh Shai gonna be the ultimate bully that's gonna come bully everybody. Okay, so you read this in this is Brother Kazak Bunny Howard, Revelation 17-16. It says, "In the 10 horn which thou sawest upon the beast, indeed shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn, her with fire." And that's the nukes, man. Okay, because that's the only thing they can do. They can't go to a conventional war against America. But the Lord put it in their spirit just to shoot them nukes off, man, along with Russia, all right, and the allies of Russia, the assembly of nations that's going to be with Russia, man. Revelation 17-17, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will. Okay, so this is all the will of the Lord playing out. Okay, yeah, the elites have their hand in everything, but they're limited. Their influence and their control is limited. Okay, the elites don't interfere with the will of the Most High. They play into the will of the Most High. Okay, it says Revelation 17-17, for the Most High have put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to give, it says, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the word, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. So there was a time, all right, when, these vassals, these EU nations, were subjugated to America, man. Okay, but then there's gonna come a time when they're gonna flip on America, man. They're gonna burn the whore with fire, which are nukes. Okay, so we're coming into that time where these nations are gonna flip. Okay, all American allies throughout the earth, the dragons of Arabia, we was reading, we're going into how, they're getting ready to flip. Those Arab nations are telling America, like, look, we ain't with this war with Iran. Y'all just use our airspace, and they're gonna cut America off from them military bases, because them Arab states can't go to war with America. Okay, America would obliterate them, but they can join that alliance that's forming against America. You see? So this is what we're seeing. The Lord is pushing these nations to be a part of this alliance and set up the ultimate cross, all right? The ultimate double cross on America, man. Okay? What's that? Let's get that in Isaiah 33:1, Baba Kashah. This is the book of Obadiah 1:7. Says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a snare, all right, have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Okay? So these nations that were in confederate or in agreement and alliance with America, they're all going to flip from the EU nations to these Arab states, these Gulf states, okay? These oil producing Arab nations, okay, that's in the lead with America, they all going to flip, okay? And we're seeing America doing everything to make these prophecies come to pass, man. Babylon is being that perfect asshole, okay, which Trump is the logo for that. Okay, and that's Trump role in life is just to be this pompous American asshole logo. Okay, that make all these nations form an alliance against America, man, and turn this bitch to a desert. Okay, that's how this play out. So let's go here. I got a video. Okay, I'm gonna get this. So this that Moabite professor, I think named Ying. All right, Sue Queen, if I'm saying it right. But he makes some pretty good points. You know, of course, all of them. You know, they're limited. Okay, so they go off. So we just extrapolate things concerning prophecy. You know, because they're looking at it purely from analytics. Okay, what you call game theories. You know, they do certain simulations of war. And see, we don't need any of this. Okay, this is just extra. All we need is what the scriptures say. We don't got to go into the details. Okay, of the conflict itself, but we just believe because the scriptures say. All right, the Lord just allows us to go into these things, man. It just boosts the faith we already have in what's written in the scriptures. Okay, so we extrapolate, certain things from, these geopolitical analysts, and, ex CIA, and ex, colonels and Marine commanders, and particular things that speak against, okay, the American, military foreign policy, and they go into the true, strengths and weaknesses of these different militaries and so forth and so on. We get into these things and we filter everything through the prophecy, man. Because they say things that are off. Okay, they be speculating, but then they say things that every now and then that's on point and align with prophecy, man. And that's what we tap into. Okay, so let's get this here, and then we'll play this. This is the brother Kazak Bunny Howard, Isaiah 33:1. It says, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee." Because America has just been a grimy nigga that's been in power, man. Okay, America been messing over all the nations of the earth for a long time, and they just had that sword. Nobody wanted to deal with this nigga in that sword, and then plus the dollar was a world reserve currency, man, and it's hard to do business on a global scale and not use the dollar. Okay, so America has had all the leverage, all the cards in their hand, but the Lord has caused certain things to happen to where America don't have the leverage that they used to have. Okay, now there's still a major portion of the earth that's subjugated to the the economic tyranny and the military tyranny of America, but then there's an assembly of nations that's not. Okay, that has created workarounds to the dollar, military alliances that that are able to combat or deter, okay, America. Because as you seen with Iran, there was deterrence. That's what you call deterrence. Okay, America had to think twice. Okay, there was a time when America didn't have to think twice. All right, they just showed up and got busy. But the fact that America had to think twice and call off, okay, military action shows you that there's a deterrence raised up against the West. Okay, and it says, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealeth treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled." Okay, so now America's getting ready to be spoiled. They finna take loss. Okay, and America is not used to taking losses. Okay, and it says, "And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with you." And see, now these other nations are dealing treacherously with America, man. They have a plot against this whore, man, to take out Babylon. Okay, and it's the will of the Lord. Okay, and that's what's going to prevail. So let's go here. I want to get here. They hit on some points I want to get into. Okay, dealing with what we see going on. All right, so let's play this.
U.S. military power in making this decision. And what's so interesting is after he claimed help was on its way, what ended up happening was that he wasn't going to get, this article actually cites, he wasn't going to get an operation like Venezuela, which is what he supposedly really wants. He was actually going to get something a lot messier. This is according to a U.S. official who is briefed on the planning that was going on around the strikes. But what's also so interesting is that J.D. Vance, there is a lot of psyops going on too, Professor John. J.D. Vance said this. He said he supported strikes on Iran, according to these officials who were close to what the White House was doing. Vance reasoned that Trump had drawn a red line and had to enforce it. Now, I don't know if you remember, Professor John, it wasn't too long ago that Vance, we were being told, was urging Trump to try diplomacy. So this is part of, I think, the psychological operation that's being done to us to confuse us. But what's the reality here? How much did Iran, in particular, its own, in terms of game theory, its own military capabilities play into this? You mentioned Starlink. That was a huge deal. And, I tend to think that when you have planes in the air kind of scouting out the situation and then they don't do anything, they knew something was going to happen that wasn't going to go too well for the U.S. empire. What's your take?
Right. So first of all, Trump is first and foremost concerned about optics, right? So he is a reality TV star. He spent most of his adult life in the media, either as a celebrity being reported on by tabloids or himself being a reality TV star. He had a hit show called The Apprentice on NBC for over a decade. And it was really the number one show on TV for the longest time. So he's really concerned about opinion, about creating optics that the America is invincible. And that's why for him, Venezuela was such a great success, because Delta Force was able to go in, extract Maduro, and there were no casualties. And that just showed America and the world that America is the most powerful military in the world. But if you look at the recent past, a much more indicative example of American military power is Operation.
So real quick, let's just get into the word optics, and then we'll get back to it. Okay, because he said Donald Trump was more concerned with optics. Okay, and remember, he's the guy. Like he said, Donald Trump is a reality TV star. He had a number one show for a while, so he knows how to draw an audience. Okay, and that's what the elites are using him for. Okay, to keep the American society entertained as they transition into this new world order. Now, when you go into optics, all right, I'm gonna go into the second part of the definition. It says, but it also has a popular usage, meaning the perception of public appearance of a situation, especially in politics or business, focusing on image and perception rather than reality. Focusing on imaging and perception rather than reality. Okay, so this whole Venezuela thing was a thing of image and perception. It had nothing to do with the reality or the strength of American military, because it don't take no strength to go to South America. They've been doing it. Okay, to go to South America and kidnap a president. They've been doing it. Okay, so when you go into the reality, that didn't show American military strength, but it gave the image and perception of it. Okay, optics. This is what Donald Trump is concerned with, the optics of something, man, not the reality. Okay, so it's a figurative meaning, perception, and appearance, a public image, how an action, event, or person is perceived by the public or media. Okay, so this is what Donald Trump has mastered, the optics of seeming strong and powerful. Okay, as if he just this great deal maker. He's just this great commander in chief and making these moves, and he's just this badass. It's all optics, man. Okay, and they pussyfooting on what they really got to do, on the inevitable, and that's locking up with that assembly of great nation, with that chief prince, okay, Magog, and that assembly, okay, that the Lord done raised up over them, man. Okay, so Greenland to be another thing for him for optics. It'll look cute for the media. Okay, it says political spin, tailoring actions or statements to create a favorable public impression. All right, and this is what Donald Trump is all about, because all you hear about is when America so-called does something great militarily, but you don't hear about the American losses. America be taking hella losses, okay, and you don't hear about that, okay, because it's not good for optics. You see, but every little thing that happened, when the Small Hats did their surprise attack on Iran, and they did a lot of damage, and they caught Iran off guard. Okay, and they did some damage, but that's all you heard. Okay, but the retaliation when Iran was pummeling them Small Hats, you didn't hear about that like that. Okay, because it's bad for optics, man. Okay, so let's play this some more. Okay, so you have to understand, man, this guy Trump, okay, he's all about the optics of a situation. He knows how to capitalize. Okay.
Prosperity Guardian. That's when the Houthis closed the Red Sea in protest of the genocide in Gaza. And America deployed this massive fleet to strike at the Houthis. And the Houthis at this point, remember, they are poor, so their navy consisted of sailboats and fishing vessels. And it just
and the Houthis do have missiles and the Houthis have hypersonic missiles that they got from Russia and Iran. Okay, so they did have surface to air hypersonics that they was also shooting at these American the American Navy. Okay, but see, you're not going to hear that the Houthi rebels, all right, fought the American Navy to a standstill with airstrikes and all. America was doing airstrikes, and still they couldn't stop the Houthis. Okay, they didn't deter their capability to fight. Okay, these are the Houthis, man. The fact that America has to have a shootout with the Houthis shows you their decline in power, man. The fact that they even had to have a shootout, the fact that they couldn't just make an announcement and the Houthis stand down, showing you the decline, okay, of military might. Okay, and like I say, yes, America has destructive power. They have knockout power to where they can just overwhelm you, okay, with weaponry. But when it comes to fighting a strategic war, America, they don't possess that ability to do that. Okay, that's why Trump even said we trying to get quick and decisive wins. The American military ain't built to grind it out. Okay, they're not built to put boots on the ground, get dirty. Okay, that's why they try the same thing of what regime change. Okay, which he's gonna go into it. He's gonna go into it. They try the same three things: propaganda, regime change, and bombs. Okay, they like to quick. They like to break your spirit early, and you just be done. They don't do well when they faced with resistance. Okay.
Saw the videos of Operation Prosperity Guardian. It is really impressive. Ships, backed up by helicopters and fighter jets. And everyone thought that, wow, the Americans are going to go in and smack the Houthis. And then, they tried this for months and months, and they got nowhere because the Houthis refused to give up. And the Americans aren't actually used to fighting a war against an adversary who refuses to give up. They're used to shock and awe. They're used to scaring people and intimidating people with the display of their military might. And the Americans refused to take casualties. So they didn't send in ground forces, and the Houthis were able to, I believe, even sink an American ship. So it was a disaster for the American military. And, there was this huge...
And now, I don't believe that the Houthis sunk any of the American ships, but they were able to cause aircraft carriers. They did knock some aircrafts off those aircraft carriers, because those ships were trying to avoid those incoming missiles from Yemen, and it caused aircraft carriers to fall off the vessel. Okay, and ultimately they had to get out of there. You see, because like he said, they was getting nowhere. I say America not built to fight anybody that has resistance. Okay, they want to break your spirit with these airstrikes. They want to kill, certain leaders, and they expect that to break your spirit. Okay, but when it comes to fighting a war of resistance, America don't fare well in it. Vietnam went bad for them. Okay, they didn't fare well in it because of their resistance. You see, and now America want to fight these little cute conflicts where they don't want to put boots on the ground, but the Lord making it to where they're gonna have to. Okay.
Debate among the American military as to what to do. You actually watch these panels. They're all actually on YouTube. You'll hear these 4-star generals and admirals go on and say, we recognize the limitations of American power in the Red Sea. We're not willing to make sacrifices. We're not willing to accept casualties. We want a cheap and easy win. And so we need to reflect on how to improve. And then someone in the audience asks, well, what are you going to do? And the response has always been, well, we'll think about it, And then the next question is, what are you going to do that's going to be different? And the generals and admirals were like, nothing. Well, we're going to keep the course, okay? So that's the state of the American military. The American military is not in a position to win a full-scale war against an adversary that's willing to fight back. Okay, they definitely can't win a war in against Russia. And we know that because of what's happening in Ukraine. They can't even win a war against the Houthis. So this war against Iran will be a disaster, and Trump sort of knows that. So he's trying to hold this off as much as possible. At the same time, because of the nature of empire, you're committed to fighting this war. The reason why is that the way to control public opinion, the way to control the globe as an empire is through intimidation, right? Through the fact that we can strike at you at any place, at any time. And they were able to do that with Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, shock and awe, that intimidated the entire world. But then in 2022, the Russians attacked Ukraine, and the Americans were not able to stop them. So now the aura of American invincibility and inability has dissipated, and America needs to reestablish this by taking on Iran and showing that America still has what it takes. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that geopolitically, Iran is the pivot point of the world. It always has been. And the great fear is that Russia, Iran, and China will link up together and create a trade pact that can negate American sea power, right? So basically Russia, Iran, and China, through the BRICS, is able to trade within themselves. They're able to use their own currency called the unit. And China is able to build railways connecting Eurasia with Africa. And then basically the entire American Navy is negated. America is blocked out of this trading block. And the American economy collapses because the American economy is a Ponzi scheme. So for a variety of reasons, the Americans have absolutely no choice but going to Iran. If they let Iran as it is, then China and Russia control basically the entire world. And so America is stuck where it is. It can't win this war, but it has to fight this war anyway.
America can't win this war, but they got to fight this war anyway. The Lord got it set up. Okay? America is checkmated. They gotta fight this war because, of course, just to sum it up, first let's go back to the generals. The generals of American military, they had to admit that America has limited power in the Red Sea, which means they're limited in general. Okay, because people talk like America is just this unlimited superpower. America got hella limitations. America military might got hella limitations. Of course, it can project itself like no other military has ever been able to project itself throughout the earth. But even with that, it still has limitations. Okay, it still has, certain circumstances to where American military don't fare well. Okay, so the generals like, look, we got limitations, and they asked those generals about what happened in the Red Sea, what y'all gonna do different, and they said, well, we're gonna stay the course. Okay, and the Lord just got America set up for failure, man. Okay, every way America tries to go is set up for failure. Everywhere Esau, because it's the fall of Esau. America is just, America is the symbol of Edomite supremacy in the earth, which is going to be destroyed. Okay, but then, like he was saying with Russia, Iran, and China, they're doing trade outside the dollar. Now, they're not trying to replace the dollar with a currency. They're just able to do business that doesn't include America. They're able to begin a global market outside of America. Okay, well, America doesn't oversee, because most global trade is overseen by American banks. Okay, so now you have this military powerhouse of nations doing trade outside the dollar. Okay, so America as an empire has no other choice but to confront. If you the empire you say you are, and this is what I'm saying, we can't keep talking about how tough America is and how weak everybody else is if they ain't pulled up on these folks yet. Okay, we can't keep saying America just tough and can't nobody stop America. Well, why America hasn't pulled up on these folks? You know what Tehran at, you know what Moscow at, you know what Beijing at. Okay, so all this how tough America going to fight Greenland. But it's all this tough talk when it comes to America. Oh man, America so great. It's such and such is so weak. Well, why haven't this so super strong military pulled up on all these weak militaries and just kicked ass? Okay, because they limited. You see, because it ain't what they telling you it is. Because if America got you, they got you. Okay, because if America could do what they did with Maduro to Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran, they would have been did it. Okay, so this the inevitable, man. They gotta go deal, okay, with Iran, China, and Russia, man. Okay, and they pussyfooting. All right. So matter of fact, let's.
What if I could build my ideal hiring app with Base 44? Hiring is chaotic.
And before we get there, let's get that in Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah. Let me see, is it 31? Yeah, let's get Isaiah chapter 31, verses 1 through 3. Bible Shah. Yeah, let's get Isaiah chapter 31, verses 1 to 3. And if we can get in the NLT, if brothers got it, if brothers can. Isaiah 33. Isaiah 31, verses 1 through 3 in the NLT Salaki. But let me fast forward a little bit. Yeah, this the brother Kazak Bun Yahweh, Job 14:5, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Okay, so this devil, his kingdom has bounds on it, and he reached the end of the road. Okay, and he trying to, prolong and trying to find another way. Ain't no other way. He got to go deal with them folks out there in the east, man. He got to go deal with the kings of the east. Okay, leave them goddamn folks alone in Greenland, man. Go see who you really need to go see about. Okay, so let's I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. He goes to some more. Let's see.
So this is a strategy. The problem is that it's schizophrenic and it's confusing, because why are you sending a third of your naval assets to the Caribbean to fight, to bomb fishing vessels and to kidnap Maduro, and at the same time you are calling for regime change in Iran? From a military perspective, it's insane what America is doing. And a lot of people didn't believe that Trump would actually strike Iran because the naval assets weren't in place yet. They had to get the ships from the Korean all the way back to the Middle East. And if you keep on doing this, you're just going to exhaust the military. I mean, the military just can't move back and forth on a whim. It takes months of planning. It's extremely expensive. You're these soldiers, these sailors need rest. I mean, Trump is just going to exhaust the American military. Trump is not a planner. Look at it this way, okay? He had the most successful TV show for the longest time, The Apprentice. Okay, so he's very good at creating TV ratings. But at the same time, every business he touched, whether it's casinos, whether it's restaurants, he bankrupted. Okay, so this is a guy who's concerned first and foremost about optics. Doesn't really care about fundamentals, the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of military. And that's why I think in 2026 it's just gonna be exhausting. Where we know what he's trying to do, but it doesn't make any military sense. Strategically, militarily, geopolitically, it's just idiotic. Why are you pissing off the Europeans, who are your allies? Why are you threatening the Canadians, who are your allies? Why are you, saying I'm going to go regime change in Iran when you don't actually have the military capacity to do so? Your generals tell you we can't do so. Why are you kidnapping Maduro, which is a direct insult to the sovereignty of the South Americans? So none of this makes sense, okay? But again, the problem is that Trump is first and foremost concerned about optics, looking like a great conquering hero. So he's interested in cheap, easy wins, okay? Such as, Maduro. Greenland will be a cheap, easy win for him. Then Cuba will probably be a cheap, easy win for him. He's not interested in these long, protracted conflicts that might backfire on him. But what he's doing is really delaying the inevitable, right? Because eventually you have to go to war in Iran, and the further you spread yourself out, it's like what we'll call imperial overstretch, right? The weaker you're going to be in this, final boss fight with Iran, which is going to happen sooner or later. So what's happening in the world, it's just moronic.
He got to go over there. He got to go to the kings of the East, man. Okay? So all this playing around, spread himself thin with the ancient Roman Empire did that. It's called imperial overreach. Okay? So all this playing that he doing, man, he trying to, not deal with the inevitable, man. Okay? And he's hearing the prophets speaking this into existence, man, and he got to do it. Okay? He has no other option. Down what the elites got going on. No, what the Lord got going on. Okay? and this man is limited. You see, you can't just, fight this war, fight this. No, he's limited, man. He can't do all that. Okay, but going back to optics, he's giving the appearance. He wants the appearance that he can. Okay, this is the brother remnant loyal to Yahweh, Isaiah 31:1. What sorrow awaits those who look to Egypt for help. All right, trusting their horses, chariots, and charioteers, depending on the strength of human armies instead of looking to the Lord. Okay, because our power not limited. You see, this devil got to deal with limitations. Okay. Yeah, from you looking from the ground level, from perspective of humans, okay, of people. Yeah, this nigga is a great mighty military. America's a great mighty military when you look at it from a perspective of what he's able to do amongst other humans. Okay, but then when you put the prophecy into play, this devil is nothing, man. He's done. You see, and the Lord got something cooked for this nigga that he can't get out of, man. I believe that's a brother want to put there Micah 2. Micah chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Okay. It says, instead of looking to the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in wisdom, the Lord will send great disaster. See, Esau can't outthink the Most High. Most High got this nigga checkmated. That's why all this wickedness he's done, all these trillions of dollars he's spent on this military, and all the enchantments he's done over the decades, and all this technology he has all over the earth, this nigga still got to deal with the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay? He still got to go deal with them kings of the east according to the scriptures. Okay? According to prophecy, man. Okay? So all this devil's been doing to try to build a system to replace the Most High. This nigga still subjugated to the will of the Most High at the end of the day. So in wisdom, the Lord will send great disaster. And then what he said, look, the war with Iran gonna be a disaster because it's gonna be more than Iran. It's gonna be Russia, China, these other nations. Okay, North Korea, India, Pakistan, even the EU nations gonna turn. All right, those Gulf Arab, all right, the dragons of Arabia, they gonna turn on his ass. Okay, then Yahweh Shai coming back. Okay, Esau trying not to walk into that, but he got to. Okay, you're being brought to the king of terrors, man. It says he will not change his mind. He will rise against the wicked. Yeah, the Most High not going to change his mind. It's already set. This the play. Okay, he will rise against the wicked and against their helpers, for these Egyptians are mere humans, not the Most High. Their horses are puny flesh. Okay, his military, not mighty spirits, not the angels, not the chariots. When the Lord raises his fist against them, which is Yahweh Shai, those who help, okay, those who help will, let me see, cut it off. They probably cut it off. But I know those who help will fall, and he's going to fall with them. Okay? So we have to understand this devil, he's in the hell of a situation, man. Okay? Edomites in the hell of a situation, and it's not looking favorable, man. Okay? So let's go here. I got a little piece of clip left. Play this a little bit.
Still met the future of the American empire, or lay the foundations for the future of the American empire in 2026.
Okay, well, let's give Trump the benefit of the doubt, okay? And let's say, there's actually a strategy here. And the end game, of course, is Iran, okay? America has to go invade Iran at some point. Now, if you invade Iran, there's a huge problem because Iran's going to cut off the Strait of Hormuz, and it's going to collapse the East Asian economies of South Korea, Japan, China. So China depends on 50% of its oil imports from the Middle East. So if there's a war going on, and this war could last for years and years, right? How do you compensate for the fact that these Southeast Asian economies, their economy is going to collapse, and they'll be dragged into the war as well? Well, okay, you can use Venezuela and North America, United States, Canada, to compensate for the loss of oil in the Middle East, right? So that's why you need to secure Venezuela, because you're anticipating this massive conflict in the Middle East. And so you need to modernize the Venezuelan oil industry in order to ensure that these East Asian economies don't implode and they're not dragged into the war, especially Japan and China and South Korea. So that's the strategy, okay? The problem with this is that you assume that the people of Venezuela are just going to sit back and let you steal their oil and resources and let them allow for Trump to impose a government, a regime that will only obey the Americans. You know, some Americans have a long memory of much despised Yankee imperialism, right? Like, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of people were killed by these military juntas controlled by the CIA, right? So Chile is a classic example where the democratically elected government led by Allende was overthrown by General Pinochet, who was backed by Kissinger and the CIA. So some Americans do not like American interference. So what this is going to do, even though it may make long-term strategic sense, it's going to piss off the South American people. It's going to rally the Venezuelan people. You know, eventually in Venezuela, in a few months' time, you're going to have a general election. This general election will be heavily contested, and America may be forced to send boots on the ground in order to maintain stability in Caracas. And then this will initiate a guerrilla warfare. So I understand, like, geopolitically, it does make sense what's happening in Venezuela, right? But the way that it's being handled is that eventually you have mission creep, and eventually you'll lead to a situation like Vietnam, and it's going to exhaust the American empire. So another thing saying this is in a short term, in a 2-year time frame, all this makes sense, and Americans will feel that, you know, Trump has control, and Trump is like this great conquering hero who will make America great again. In the long term, America is going to suffer tremendous blowback, not only in Venezuela, but throughout the Caribbean and throughout Latin and South America. So it's really the end of empire. Listen, the Americans could have done this at any point, okay? In fact, even like in one day, America could just go and topple every regime in South America. They have that military capacity. You don't do that because it's retarded, because it's suicidal, because you just piss off people. You're pissing off hundreds of millions of people. You're unifying them. You're giving them a reason to fight against you.
Yeah. I mean,
so this man got too many irons and too many different fires, man. You know, and at the end of the day, he gonna have to deal with this prophecy. Okay, and he's trying to find some alternative route. Ain't no alternative routes, man. Okay, like you said, you gotta go do what you gotta do. You gotta go put your boots on the ground, man. All right. So let's go here, and we'll end it here. This is the book of Micah, chapter 2. All right, this is the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 1. It says, I'll read this in case. This is Micah 2:1. It said, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. Okay, so these devils are used to being in full control. You know, coming up with these wicked counsels and going out and execute. You see, with no blowback, with no repercussions, with no threat to their empire. Okay, but now the stakes are different now. You see, the stakes of World War III are completely different than the stakes of World War I and World War II. See, the stakes are completely different. Now his kingdom is on the line. His whole empire Okay, this whole global system is on the line now. It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. So yeah, the devil's been able to just have conquest with no repercussions. You know, like he said, American military hasn't suffered real casualties in a long time. Okay, so they just been able to conquest with no real blowback. American land itself, you know, has been unscathed, while the American military has been abroad, just, you know, conquering and doing the bidding of the elites. Okay, but now, verse 3, therefore, thus said the Lord Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which you shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughtily, for this time is evil. So against this whole family of Esau, Edom. Okay, America has been the symbol of Edomite dominance in the earth. And that's why you see, you know, these Edomite men, okay, trying to reestablish their dominance and their superiority, even in, you know, day-to-day society. You know, that's what you got Captain Kirk stood for. Okay. These different Edomites, you know, pushing this, you know, this Edomite male superiority. Okay. But now we're coming to the time where the Lord has evil against his whole family. He's pronounced evil bad times and said, you're not going to remove your neck. You're not going to get out of this, man. You can't remove your neck from this judgment. Okay, because the devil is used to escaping and sidestepping, you know, any consequence, and then being proud about it. Okay, but this is not going to be the case. See, this time, because the real boss ain't Iran, the real boss is Yahweh Shai. Okay, that's who everything leads to. Okay, Iran is gonna be the least of your problems when Yahweh Shai crack them clouds, man. Okay, because Yahweh Shai gonna be a problem for everybody. Okay, all parties involved. You see, so Revelation 11:14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly, man. Okay, and everybody, see, this devil has been able to flip the script like it's, Iran, Russia, and China, like they're not doing what they need to do. No, they over there already. You got to bring your ass over there. You got to come to the ring. Okay, you've been playing. You outside the ring throwing stuff into the ring. No, you got to come in that ring, man. Okay, the Lord got them over there ready. You see, for this third woe. But in the midst of that third woe, all right, verse 15, and the seven angels sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his anointed, and he shall reign forever and ever. Okay, that's the end game that the Heavenly Father has set up. Okay, that the kingdoms of this world, okay, are going to be the kingdoms of Yahweh Shai, because he's coming to conquer everything, man. You know, Russia, America, all right, the EU, everything, okay, all these militaries involved, Yahweh Shai coming to conquer everything, man. You know, Lord we'll have joint heirs, you know, with Yahweh Shai, man, when he comes to conquer the earth in righteousness, man. Okay, so, yeah, that's the point. Just wanted to get into that. You know, Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you sisters are edified once again. I'm going to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful, Shalom.